Hello, everyone. It's Josie, and welcome to Eccentric. First of all, okay, so this is another energy update, but there's also subject matter about elemental transformation as well. I just got out of meditation and I decided to go ahead and do this video. Now, while I was in meditation, I saw the planet Earth and it was surrounded by a hot blue color, like aura or energy. I don't know exactly what that's about particularly, but I figured I would share that. But the messages I want to share right this moment are for the upcoming week. The upcoming week, we're going to be experiencing quite a bit of intense energy. And I just want you to understand that this energy is pretty intense. 1 second, loves. Here we go. So, what I was given is the analogy of a roller coaster. You know how you're going to get strapped into the roller coaster. Everybody does, the people that work at the theme park, they do a safety check, right? So at the beginning of the week, which is now, Sunday, Monday, around that time, you're getting checked for safety. You're, making sure that you're seated properly, making sure you're tall enough, all kinds of stuff that's happening right now. That's the part of the roller coaster ride you're on. Everybody's being checked, and some people have already been checked. They're good to go, but they're waiting for everybody to be checked, right? That's the beginning of this week. But once we hit around Wednesday, that's when you actually get movement, right? And you hear the chains, you feel that initial jerk of movement, even though you're moving slow and you're being pulled, right? And this is your classic roller coaster that starts off with a drop, okay? So you're being pulled upward in a slow motion. Starting around Wednesday. Remember, energy doesn't start and stop, and it's different for everybody, right? You're being pulled upward, climbing this hill or whatever. You're ascending, right? And this is around the middle of the week. But when it comes toward like Friday, that's when you're going to have that moment where you're at the very top and you can see everything. You are going to have an enlightening moment at some point this week where you can just see everything. I call them God moments. You're going to have this clarity, like this burst, this, where you just know, right? And whatever your truth is, whatever you're supposed to get, whatever downloads or whatever, you are going to really feel whatever this experience is for you. And it's kind of like being at that top of that peak where you can look down and see everything before you get dropped on that roller coaster, right? And then comes the weekend. This is after you have this feeling of, oh my God, this is intense. I'm having a God moment. I got all this wisdom now. All of a sudden, I'm conscious of my knowing, this intensity of divinity that happens. And then bam, the roller coaster drops. And this is a steep drop. Now, you've had that moment. but not everybody had that moment with you. But they can sense that you've had that moment. So this weekend may just be a little turbulent. You may have panic attacks, literally. You may have moments where you don't even want to breathe. You just want to just give up. You just don't even want to be there for it. Kind of like when people black out on a roller coaster. You may have moments where you decide you're going to purge. Kind of like when people throw up on a roller coaster. You may actually throw up, or you just may be purging emotionally or in some other kind of way. So some people are going to give up entirely. Some people are going to purge this weekend coming up. Some people are just going to freaking scream the whole time, which is kind of like a sense of purging, right? Some people are just going to enjoy the ride and really enjoy the thrill and be okay because, you know, they're aware and they have their knowing, and they're not allowing outside influences to shake them from that. So there's going to be a lot going on, similar to what would happen on a roller coaster with different people with different expressions, you know. So during that drop, it's up to you how you're going to react. It's not that your energy's dropping or anything like that. It's just going to feel like a drop after this amazing high if you don't hold on to that knowing. Okay? So yeah, this is going to be quite an interesting week. And if anybody has any more information on this blue, hot blue energy surrounding the earth right now, that would be awesome for you to comment, right? If you've been seeing anything interesting, especially in the skies. There's still going to be plenty of stuff happening in the skies. Even right, you can see the plasma so much easier now in the skies. There's just so much going on. And, you know, of course, my advice to you is take care of yourself first. You need to put the mask on your face first before you can put it on anybody else. Now is not the time to try to save nobody, wait for nobody, none of that. It all comes from you. Okay, everybody, not everybody for themselves in a sense where you're not supposed to care about people around you, but you've got to be for yourself first. Please do not give energy that you don't have, because it will make your experience very horrible. And all you're doing is joining the misery around you. If you have it to give, if you are okay and you are grounded in that knowing, then of course, help where you can, but practice detachment, healthy detachment. You know, help in that moment and then detach. Don't stay in it. You do not want to get caught up. You don't. Not in this energy. You don't want to get caught up, held back, none of that. Okay? So yeah, that was my beautiful energy update for the week ahead. I've been feeling like something was going down this week coming up, but I just couldn't. I didn't have the vision until now. So now I know why I feel that way. I always come from a space of love, right? Now when it comes to the subject of elemental transformation, this is also something that I was called to chat with you guys about. I got the vision of being in the water, in the ocean, and Spirit said, hey, water is still water no matter what it's carrying. And I said, oh, we forget that water is still water no matter what it's carrying. Tap water, sea water, spring water, it's all still water at the basic level, no matter what is floating in it, right? And I sat there and I was like, okay, I see where we're going with this. because I got the vision of the person just in the sea, under the water, just kind of floating. So we're going to start off with water, but we're going to run through all the elements, right? So as far as water is concerned, water represents spirituality. It represents emotion, right? I'm going to give that to y'all now so you can understand what I'm saying. So when you are in the ocean, right? Just imagine you're in the ocean and you are just floating. You're in the water, like you're under the water, okay? So you're heavy enough to stay submerged, but you're not light enough to float on top of it. You're in the middle level of the water. Water is above you, below you, and all around you, okay? There's no stability there. And you don't see very well under the water. Your vision is distorted, okay? And also, you are dealing with currents going in all kinds of different directions, even in the ocean, even under the water. So you're being pushed around. You don't have anything to stand on. You can't see very well. This is the element of water when you're submerged in it. So you think to yourself, how is this good? How am I going to get anything good out of this? Well, first of all, it's kind of similar to water aerobics. You see what I mean? First of all, you're going to have to actually move, right? So you got to decide which way you want to move. Do you want to move with the current or against the current? If you move against the current, you're going to have to work harder. If you move with the current, you're still moving. So either way it goes, you're getting a workout, right? Now, if you move against the current, it's pretty much going to keep you where you are, and you're just going to be struggling, and it's going to be futile, right? And eventually you'll go into muscle failure and then just kind of float along with the current after you're all tired and stuff. You'll delay yourself. But if you swim with the current, you will get carried to where you're supposed to go, even though you don't know where you're going, right? And you will still build muscle. You will still build strength, right? And you'll be able to observe what's closest to you, even though you can't see very well. You'll see better if you go with the current than if you go without. So you will be able to observe, right? You'll be able to sense things around you because the current won't be so jacked because you're not going against it, right? You are going to grow from the water. The water is transforming you in a way that you will still build strength spiritually and emotionally, right? That's where you're building your strength at when you're dealing with the element of water, spiritually and emotionally, okay? And even psychologically when you're in the water, okay? So that's the elemental transformation story that I have for you as far as water is concerned. Now we're going to move on to air, because air is kind of like water in a way, except for it's thinner. And you actually have the risk of falling and hitting something hard on the ground, right? That's the fear. So with air, you still don't have stability. You don't have anything to stand on. There's air above you, below you, and all around you. With air, you don't even get to float. You're just falling. Who wants to be dealing with an air transformation, right? Air element governs your thinking process, your logical mind, your, whether or not you use your divine wisdom. You can either use your wisdom or you can choose to freak out when it comes to air. You see what I mean? You can let all of your fears decide for you what's going to happen, or you can pull from your divine wisdom and actually take a moment to put together a solution so you don't bust your face on the ground eventually. Right? Air energy, you don't want to flail around when you're falling. Like, skydiver training. Mind you, I have not had skydiver training, but I just watch a lot of videos, right? When they're training you to skydive, you basically got to put your arms and legs out kind of like a freaking flying squirrel so that you won't fall so fast. So if you do that, right, if you use your freaking divine wisdom and you spread your legs and your arms out so you don't fall so fast, then you have time to actually think about a solution, right? And figure out how to save your life, But if you choose to flail around and let your thoughts get the best of you, not only will you splat yourself onto the face of the earth, but you will do so in a way that will cause way more damage than if you just kind of let yourself fall. You know what I mean? It will be so ugly. So when you're dealing with air and the transformational energies of air, you're talking about mental strength. That is how air transforms you. You can either choose not to use your intellectual abilities for your highest good, or you can choose to use that divine wisdom. You see what I mean? Intellect is important. The details are important. But if you choose to just freak out and skim over stuff in that particular situation, it's not going to end well. That is how air transforms you. Mental strength. Okay? Moving along to the element of fire. Fire is interesting. Fire burns, man. Fire can give you the ultimate transformation. I mean, it's a chemical change. It's not just a physical change. You're dealing with fire. You can't handle anything. You can't think. And your feelings are all over the place. When you're dealing with fire, you are really in a primal state of survival, right? This is how fire transforms you. It backs you up against a wall. It makes you feel super uncomfortable because you're dealing with stuff that's new that you've never done before. If you weren't adventurous, you're dealing with adventurous people around you that make you nervous, all kinds of stuff, okay? Fire makes you uncomfortable, okay? That's its job. So you have a choice. You can either learn where to stand when you're dealing with fire so that you don't burn yourself, or you can just continue freaking out about the fact that the fire's there and it's burning and it's uncomfortable. A part of you at some point has to understand how close you can get to fire. This is where we start to protect our hearts and start to try to predict and prevent situations and all kinds of stuff, because we were not paying attention to how close we were standing to the fire in the first place. It doesn't have to hurt. So if you could take a moment to master your impulsiveness, master that survival instinct within you, and say, hey, you are not dying. Take a moment and find out how you can navigate this uncomfortable situation. Take a moment to figure out how your will is actually working in this situation for your benefit your will, okay? Because you attracted this situation, either consciously or subconsciously. Your discomfort is not your enemy. It's actually there to help you, to teach you, okay? Choose to either freak out about everything that's going on around you, choose to either overly feel everything and try to control everything, choose to be a victim if you want to, or you can choose to say, okay, this is what's happening, it's uncomfortable, how can I make this comfortable? Fire is kind of like when someone hurts you and you decide to either hurt them back, or you take that pain and you create something beautiful out of it. That's what fire does. It makes you decide, because it's hot and it's impulsive and it's urgent. So you can either hurt the fire back, or take the fire and create something beautiful out of it. If you choose to hurt it back, you're definitely headed toward that ultimate transformation, which is a chemical transformation. And that's a transformation you can't come back from. Okay? That's when you start to lose people in your life. That's when you start to lose your material. All kinds of stuff happens when you choose to go toward tit for tat situations. Okay? That's when you get that chemical reaction from fire, because you basically jumped all up in it. Okay? So that's how fire transforms you. It strengthens your creativity. It strengthens your out-of-the-box thinking. Okay? And it also allows you to rise above like the phoenix. That's where you get the strength from fire. You got to figure out how to not hurt yourself when you're in fire situations. But you still have to go through the fire to come out better. It's kind of like a rite of passage, and this is why they have fire in so many rites of passages. You see what I mean? It's not something you can just get away from. You got to learn how to be okay within it. Moving on to water. Hello, loves. I see you. I'm just trying to get this information out before I forget it. Did I say moving on to water? Lord have mercy. The next element is earth. And it's going to be the last element. I'm not going to bring in the ethers just because I don't have a lot of time. So I'm going to leave earth as the last element. Earth does provide transformational experiences. When you're dealing with earth, you're dealing with the material plane. You're dealing with all the stuff you've bought, money, all the material things that you have, and you're also dealing with your physical body. You know what I mean? Your physicality, period. And there's plenty of transformation that happens in this situation with earth, okay? With earth, you are standing on solid ground, right? This is the only element where you have good footing. You're standing on solid ground, and you can actually stand there. It's not hot, and it's not non-existent like with air and water. You know what I mean? With earth, you're standing on solid ground, but how solid is the ground? Earth is all about foundations and longevity. So you may be standing on solid ground at the moment, but if there's cracks in that foundation, it's not going to last long, and you will find a sinkhole, or all kinds of crazy stuff may happen, or the earth may shift itself. You see what I mean? So you're either standing on a temporary foundation with the earth element, or you're standing on a solid foundation that's going to last with earth. Those are your two options that you have, right? So you can choose to ignore the cracks in your foundation when it comes to earth energy, and be okay with the fact that it's only going to be temporary and things will fall apart, or you can ensure that your foundation is not only solid, but that you continuously check in with your foundation to keep it solid for the longevity of the situation. Earth is pretty down to earth and simple a concept, because either your foundation is faulty or it's solid. And only you know that, because you're the one that started building on it. So when it comes to businesses, relationships, families, houses, households, empires of any kind of structure, when it comes to anything you started, when you start to have issues with those things, go back to the beginning of how you started in the first place, because that's where you're going to find clues as to whether or not there are cracks in the foundation. And if there are cracks, you can choose to go and fix those cracks. But there are some cracks that cannot be fixed per the very beginning of what you've done. There are some cracks karmically, because Saturn is an earth sign and it deals with karma. There are some cracks that weren't meant to be fixed, and you will have to rebuild, and that's okay. You have that strength to do that because of the fact that you were strong enough to go back and look at least. Okay? Now, for those of you who build on a strong foundation and you check and recheck, you're still going to have maintenance that you have to do, even if you don't have to rebuild. Don't think that you're just getting off scot-free. With earth, there's always going to be some kind of work involved with earth energy. But what it gives you is that physical strength. Just like a construction worker or anybody in manual labor, you're going to naturally get physical strength, because you're either having to go and do a big job, or a demolition and a rebuild, or you're having to just consistently do maintenance to maintain your longevity with earth energy. So that's where you're going to get your physical strength. That's where you're going to get your wealth and your strong system that's going to last, right? That's how you transform with earth energy. So yeah, those are all of the elements that I want to share with you. Hopefully this video has been very, very informative. I thank you, love, so much for stopping by and popping in and sharing this video. Please like, share, and subscribe for my YouTubers. And yeah, go with love and hold on to your knowing. Have a beautiful evening.